it's time for me to film another weekly wrap up. Of course, I've been doing this, I don't know, maybe a couple months now since I started going back to school, and this just works for me. A Suicide Squad Volume 5 Walled In. I absolutely love this series. If you have not checked out Suicide Squad, it's a bunch of villains who've been hired by, well, not really hired, they're kind of forced into it by Amanda Waller to do like missions for her. They're like suicide missions that basically they could die. And she manipulates them through different ways. Like sometimes they have like bombs in their necks that could blow up. Well, anyways, this takes place during the events of the crime syndicate trying to take over the world and everything. Suicide Squad, they think they've finally become free, but they haven't. They're still kind of enthralled by Amanda Waller. But I thought this was it's still a steady, strong series. One that I still really enjoyed. The artwork's kind of cool. I love King Shark. He is so cool. He's like a mindless, like Hulk type character, but he's so cool, you know. I rated this one 4 out of 5 stars. I really enjoyed it. If you're into like the anti-hero or seeing villains do heroic things, check it out. It was definitely worth the read. That one was. After that, I picked up New Mutants Back to School. This is a reboot of the New Mutants series. I really don't care for the artwork. I mean, it looks okay, but it's so obviously digital. Like, you can tell. It looks like it was done with pencils and then kind of colored in digitally, but very slow start. It starts up with Danielle Moonstar, who was one of the original New Mutants. And she wasn't even really one of the good New Mutants. She just has, like, the power to create illusions or whatever. And Professor X gets her to recruit new students for his school. So it was a really slow start. I kept thinking, oh my god, this is a 2-star book. I really didn't want to read it. I was almost midway through when I felt like I was going to give up on it. But then I started to see, you know, they introduced origins for some, like, all-new X-Men. And I don't mean that, like, literally all-new X-Men. I mean, like, that's the title that they appear in. All-new X-Men, like Prodigy and Healer, or I think, no, his name's not Healer, it's Elixir. They have the origins for them, and I thought that was pretty darn cool. I mean, that's what put this up to a 3-star book for me. If it wasn't for that, I probably would have rated this a 2-star and not even have finished it. But yeah, it's worth checking out just to get those origins for those 2 X-Men characters. After that, I picked up Incognito by Ed Brubaker. This is a Goodreads recommendation, and it's one that I was very surprised at because it was actually very good. It's kind of a noir type, like, it's kind of noir series. I'm not really sure what time period it is, but the artwork is amazing for one. Well, anyways, this guy used to be a superhero. For some reason, he's retired, and he's monitored by the government to make sure that he's not using his powers. He's on a drug to kind of make him a normal person, and he's trying to live inconspicuously, incognito, among regular people, and, you know, witness protection type thing. It's sort of like that. It's kind of like got its own world where there's all these supervillains and heroes, and I thought it was really interesting though because and I do have to say this is a very mature only book. It does contain a lot of graphic stuff, not intended for children. But yeah, I found it very enjoyable, and I have not come across a story this good in a very long time, and I'm kind of glad that I chose to pick this up because the cover, if I was going to judge it just based on the cover makes it look so mediocre, and I was thinking, oh yeah, this is just going to be one of those noir type books that's just really not going to be very satisfying, but it has a very unique scenario, and the fact that this guy is a hero and he fights the system, and there's like a plot twist and there's more stuff that happens. I don't want to talk and reveal too much because I don't want to spoil it for you guys, but I just thought that this was a very well written story. It didn't really have like plot holes because they kind of explained everything as they go, and the ending worked out great. It didn't end on a cliffhanger. It ended like it could be like an all-in-one story that, I rated this one 5 out of 5 stars on Goodreads. It was really, really good. It's definitely worth checking out if you're into noir, if you're into alternate type scenarios with superheroes and stuff. You should definitely check that one out because I really enjoyed it. I think it's worthy reading, and I'm glad Goodreads recommended it to me. Next up we have Incognito Bad Influences. This is the follow-up to Incognito, which I thought was a great, great universe. It's one of the better stories that I have read, graphic novel-wise, in a very long time. I'm very impressed with the writings of Ed Brubaker when it comes to this series. And that series I rated 5 out of 5 stars. I absolutely loved it. But when it came to picking up the follow-up book, it just it's supposed to take off where it left off in the following volume. But this one kind of has a lot of plot holes. Like, this feels so rushed. Yes, the world is still the same. I still love the reality of this world, which Ed Brubaker has created for this character named Zach Overkill. And sorry, I said he was a hero in the last volume, but I guess he was a villain. I mean, this guy's been so many things. He was a hero, he's like a clone of a hero, he's a villain, he's an anti-hero, he's a mercenary, he's an agent for this SHIELD type organization. But yeah, it's just amazing. And I never saw the events in this book even coming. I mean, yes, there were a couple of plot holes, but like I said, I really love the writing and the universe, the world building that this book had. And sometimes when you get these other reality superheroes, a lot of the times they kind of tend to mimic like Marvel or DC. But this series just totally creates their own thing and they own it. And that's another reason why I was so impressed with Incognito. Well, anyways, this one, like I said, it had a few plot holes. It seemed a bit rushed and it seemed to be written like in a hurry. So this one I only rated 4 out of 5 stars. It was just not as good as the previous one, but it's still good. It's still worth checking out. After that, I picked up New Mutants Unfinished Business. Of course, if you remember, I just not too long ago read the reboot volume 1 of this series, New Mutants, and that one was really dry. That I'm not sure what happened previously. I'm assuming I'm going to have to read the previous volume to really know what went down with Illyana Rasputin and the New Mutants. But I love the fact that this team consists of the original New Mutants. They were the reasons why I picked up this reboot anyways, because I absolutely loved them when I was a kid. The artwork is pretty cool. It's pretty good. Like I said, the events are kind of vague because you have to have prior knowledge from the previous volume or two. So I really wasn't feeling this, so I rated this one 3 out of 5 stars just based on that. I'm hoping and assuming that if you read these in chronological order, in the order they're meant to be read in, then it would probably make more sense. But being that I kind of read it out of order, it really didn't make any sense for me. So as a standalone, I rated that 3 out of 5 stars. I just didn't know what was going on. Following that, I picked up Avengers Undercover Descent. This is volume 1 in a series. And there's been a lot of these new Avengers books coming out. And this one, I just really wasn't sure because I don't know. I know some of the characters. Like, I know that some of them are the old Runaways, but they're a little more mature. They're a little more grown up. And some are relatively new. Like, I've never heard of them, like Hazmat. And I know Nico's from the Runaways, and so is Chase, I think his name is. But there's a couple of new characters I'm just not familiar with. There's a Deathlock character, and I don't know if all the events in this book. See, this is another story where it was kind of hard to get into it because it alludes to previous events, and I'm not sure, maybe those events happened in Avengers Arena, which they advertise in the front of this book. But it was kind of hard for me to get into this right away just because I don't know what happened. I know that something happened with the villain Arcade and this group of young Avengers. But that's all I know. I mean, I just know that he captured them and made them fight in Murder World. But they're very loose with what's going on, so I'm assuming that somewhere in the Marvel Universe there has to be a volume printed of that story. I'm not sure where to find it, but it would be nice to read it because as I got to the climax, the midway point of this book, it really seemed to pick up and it really got really intense. Now, that's when you finally find out why it's called Avengers Undercover, when they go searching for their one friend who is he's another like hero I've never heard of, but he's thinking of going to the villain side. And they go to retrieve him, and yeah, I'm not going to say any more than that, but this was a great book. I'm hoping that this is going to continue to be a great series. I rated this one 4 out of 5 stars. It didn't go for the full 5-on-star rating just because I don't know what happened previously to this, and it's a volume 1. So, I mean, they should have had like maybe previous events and where to find it before you started reading this story. So if you just picked this up, you would know where to pick up and find out what exactly happened to them. That was why I rated this only 4 out of 5 stars, just for that reason. But it's a really great story with some lesser known kind of villains. Yes, they're Captain America villains, but it was still pretty intense and pretty cool. Next up we have the Homeland Directive. I don't even remember requesting this book. I don't know why I ended up getting it because it wasn't a Goodreads recommendation. It was just in my pile of books. I really don't know how I ended up with this. Well, anyways, it's from some independent publisher named Top Shelf Productions, which I've never heard of that comic book company either. And it's got a very interesting art style. I'll give it that much. The cover is pretty badass. But the artwork is interesting. Sometimes they use collage elements. Sometimes it looks like it's drawn on graph paper. Other times there's like photoshopped like real pictures of stuff. But aside from that, the story is about the Patriot Act and the new government and how they're trying to control people. It's like one of those conspiracy theory type stories, and the government's trying to kill its citizens by unleashing this plague on money, and they're trying to kill certain scientists and everything. It was just a really ridiculous story. I do know that on Goodreads this did have quite a high rating. I think it has like a 3 point something or maybe a 4-star rating on Goodreads. Well, anyways, I didn't find it very entertaining. I only rated this 2 out of 5 stars. I just wasn't feeling it. It just was not my thing. Next up we have Amazing X-Men Volume 1, The Quest for Nightcrawler. This one, I was under the impression when I saw the title that it was going to be like the Uncanny Avengers, where it was going to be a mixture of Avengers and X-Men. But it was not. Well, anyways, as you can see, Nightcrawler's on the cover. Nightcrawler is one of my favorite X-Men, and I was really saddened when I learned that he had died in one of the Utopia stories. But anyways, of course, as you can figure, nobody really stays dead in the Marvel Universe, so of course Nightcrawler comes back. And I don't want to spoil it because I don't want to reveal how exactly he comes back and under what pretenses and all that. But it just involves a story between heaven, earth, purgatory, and Nightcrawler's father, Azazel. Of course, if you read X-Men, the current X-Men, you know that there are these little, like, Nightcrawler-type imps that are called Bamfs, and they are all over the Jean Grey School for X-Men. And of course, well, these little guys, they build this like device that creates a portal to, the world beyond where the dead are, and that's as much as I think I can say without spoiling it. Well, anyways, a couple of the X-Men end up going through the portal. They end up discovering Nightcrawler there, and of course a battle ensues between Nightcrawler, the X-Men, and his father Azazel, with numerous like bad guy villains like Captain Kidd and Jack the Ripper and all that are on Azazel's side. So yeah. The whole pirate theme thing is kind of like really overplayed. It was kind of a cool idea at first because that's one of the things that makes Nightcrawler such a cool character is he's kind of a swashbuckler. But at the same time, it kind of got really silly and just kind of dumb after a while. So it was an okay story. I was kind of hoping for something a little better because this is more contemporary X-Men, and of course it's the return of one of my favorite X-Men. So it's got a couple guest appearances by some people, which I don't know if I should really name them or not. I really don't want to spoil it too much. Well, anyways, the artwork is okay. It's decent. But like I said, the story overall was just okay. I rated this 3 out of 5 stars. It's worth checking out if you want to hear about the origin of the Bamfs, because they do explain where they come from, finally. Because I just remember seeing them in an X-Men comic, and there was no real reveal as to where they came from or why they were there. But this book explains that, why they're there. And if you want to learn a little bit more about Nightcrawler, yeah, check this out, because it's got some flashback scenes, too. And for my final book in the weekly wrap-up, we have Avengers Next Rebirth. If you're not familiar with who this team is, they are a future Avengers team. This was a series that was created in the late 90s. I remember seeing the books in the store, and I thought this was really cool that Tom DeFalco had imagined future like Avengers and other heroes. There's like a whole bunch of heroes that he created for the next generation of heroes. We have American Dream, who is like a Captain America type. We have Sabreclaw, who's kind of like Sabretooth. And there's J2, which is like the Juggernaut's son. And we have Spider-Girl, and there's a Quicksilver type character. There's a couple of Thor characters. There's like 2 of them. There's the daughter of Loki. So it was I thought this was a really fun story. I enjoyed it very much. But for some reason, everybody on Goodreads hated this. They rated it 2 out of 5 stars, or they gave it like 3 stars. I absolutely love this, and I gave this 4 out of 5 stars on Goodreads. I thought it was a really fun story. And there are a couple of other books of this that I would like to check out, because I really like this imagining. I really like this universe. I thought it was really cool. I mean, it did get a little silly sometimes, but the whole concept in itself, that it's future heroes, I thought was worthy of 4 out of 5 stars. It's original and different from anything they've already written. So, yeah. Go ahead and check this one out. If you guys have read any of these, let me know down below. I'm always glad to give you guys like new ideas for comic books, but I'm also willing to check out new books myself. So if you have any recommendations, even if you think I may have already read something, feel free to let me know down below like different things that you think I might want to check out. Yeah, I have read a lot of comics, but it doesn't mean I read everything under the sun. So that is it for this weekly wrap-up. Thanks for watching, and until next time, later guys.